All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us this afternoon for our webinar. And today's webinar, as you're aware, is purely based around our return to play document that was released earlier this week. Our first lot of webinars went so successfully well some time ago that we thought we'd try it again, and it was probably one of the best ways to actually be able to get the information directly out to everybody. If you're not familiar with how webinar setup works, you will see me, I won't see you, and you will be able to ask any questions you like by writing that into the question and answer section or the chat section. So feel free to shoot that through. The question and answer section is probably the best one, and as today goes on, if I haven't covered anything, please feel free to ask any of those questions, and I'll hopefully be able to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll just make it up. No, that's a joke. If there is a chance that you may ask me a question that completely stumps me and I won't be able to answer that today, but rest assured I will get you the answer, and I will actually send that answer out to everybody that's participated in today's webinar, so you all get to hear the final outcome. I do have your email addresses for everyone that has registered today. Also joining me, even though you can't see them, is our Bowls Tasmania President, Graham Hay, and our Regional Bowls Manager, Alan Eadie. So you will get feedback from those guys if they can answer something that I can't, or if they think I've forgotten something. So we'll go through the return to play document, and as I said, hopefully I will cover most of your questions, and if anything has been a little bit grey leading into today from the document you received, it will help out. Now, I will just like to start off with a little clarification. There has been a couple of slight changes within the last 2 hours to the document, so we haven't released that yet. We're going to go through it with you today, and then I'll release it publicly after this webinar. So the main thing that I need to clarify, and I'll sort of apologise to our indoor centres in particular. Thank you to all of the indoor centres that took up the invitation the other day to actually meet with us over a Zoom meeting, so we could have a bit of a discussion about this return to play. In the last couple of hours, it's been clarified with us that during stage 1, our indoor centres won't be permitted to open. So an urgent email did go out to the indoor centres to try and clarify that this afternoon, so it didn't get sprung on them with this webinar. But yes, unfortunately, through stage 1, that does not allow indoor sport. So of course our indoor centres come under that clarification. So that wasn't quite made clear in the initial roadmap to recovery that was presented after last Friday's announcement. So that was something we wasn't quite aware of, but as I said, we've been made aware of that by Sport and Rec in the last couple of hours, so we've been able to get that information out. Okay, I'm just being made aware that I keep freezing, so I'm sorry if anyone else is getting that. I'm not really sure why that's happening. It's coming across okay my end, so apologies if anyone else was getting that freezing. Okay, so moving on, I thought one of the easiest ways would actually be to go through each stage and to be able to clarify things as we go. So I'm going to share my screen with you and actually put up the stages. So I'm just going to double check. Is anyone else getting that? I'm being told that there's a bit of starting and stopping. Is anyone else getting that, or is it just on a couple? Right, I'm being told that there is a fair bit of freezing. So look, I'm going to continue. It may be my end. It's not letting me know. It is showing full signal, but I'm going to keep going, and hopefully the recording won't actually record with that freezing. So with a bit of luck, you'll be able to. Yeah, okay, so most people are saying it, so I'm going to guess that this could be my end, and I apologise for that. I'm not really sure why that's happening. But as I said, I'm going to go ahead with the presentation, and worst case scenario, you might have to watch bits of it back afterwards if you miss any of it. So I'm going to share my screen with you now so you can actually see the return to play document, and we'll go through each of those points. Okay, so you should have in front of you on the screen, if it comes back at all, is our Bowls Tasmania return to play document. So I'm going to head straight through the stages and we'll discuss them as we go. So as of Monday, the 18th of May, on Tasmania's roadmap for recovery is stage 1. That does allow gatherings of up to 10 people, indoors and outdoors. However, for sport-related activities, that does not include indoor sports, as I mentioned. So informal roll-ups may resume. Every second rink to be in use at this point, with no more than 4 people on a rink. Now, we have spoken to a few of the indoor centres about discussions whether that could be half a rink in between, which may allow, for example, on a green, 5 rinks more comfortably with only 2 at each rink. So we believe, yes, that will meet all the social distancing measures. So if that's something that your club would like to consider, please let us know and we're happy to work with you on that. No more than 4 people on a rink, only permitting 2 players at each end, so therefore pairs. So if there are more than 2 players on a rink, they must have 2 at each end. If it is 3, you can have a marker and 2 players down the other end. What we want to try and avoid is 3 or 4 players all being down one end, having a bit of socialisation while they're interacting. So that's the restrictions around that. No spectators are to be permitted at this stage. So there is a little bit more clarification, and this is one of the points that has been added to the document, unless this person is a caregiver. So remembering that, and a definition of that could be, for example, a parent or a guardian if they have an under 18 participant. So that's one example, or it could be a support worker for one of our disability bowlers. So in that case, they may be at the venue. They will not come in, they won't be counted as part of that 10. So you will still be within that 10. I've just had a thing come up saying my internet signal is unstable. So hopefully this is coming through to you okay. So as I said, those spectators that are purely there for caregiver reasons will not come in to the 10 capacity. However, the no more than 10 people does include other personnel. So for example, your staff and volunteers that are at the venue, that are there, for example, to ensure the social distancing measures or to ensure that the sanitisation process has been completed. They will come into that 10 because they'll be in and around the facility. So please keep that in mind. With the caregiver spectators, if they are there, they should be a relative distance from the green, and the AIS recommendation is to be separate from the athletes. So they should still be separate from that, and then all of the spectators should be also then maintaining social distancing. The approach to training should focus on get in, train, and get out. So the idea is not to be there socialising. It is simply to be there to have a roll up and leave. And once again, vulnerable people are encouraged to stay home and protect their health. This is a really important measure to remember, and as something that our state government is recommending all the time. So, you know, please be aware of what demographic we're referring to with vulnerable people. So, you know, our players over 70, our vulnerable age group with, you know, over 60s with bad health or compromised immune systems or anything like that. So, you know, please be aware of that definition. We then move on to stage 2, which commences on the 15th of June. Well, this will then apply to our indoor and outdoor bowling facilities. There'll still be no spectators permitted unless that person is a caregiver. And once again, they must be maintaining social distancing. They won't come into the 20, but they should be a relative distance away. Once again, every second rink in use. However, we are willing to discuss with you the possibility of half a rink, and there should be no more than 4 people on a rink as per stage 1. no more than 4 people, including staff or, no more than 20 people, including staff or volunteers. Vulnerable people are encouraged to stay home. So the biggest change there from stage 1 to stage 2 is from 10 to 20 people, and also the fact that our indoor facilities can come on board. These can also be organised matches at this point. So, for example, your turkey triples wouldn't work because that'd be 6 people on a rink, but jackpot pairs, as an example, which is an organised match, that could be part of that stage 2. Now, stage 3, they are talking of gatherings of 50 to 100 people. However, that will be determined closer to by public health, and there'll be further information released regarding sport and rec. Further information will be released by Sport and Rec. We don't have a lot of information around that. Sport and Rec activities at that point, the numbers will be looked at by public health. So we have said that this document will be reviewed prior to stage 3, and we'll hopefully be able to give you more up-to-date information as we get closer. Okay, and throughout all of these stages, bowlers are reminded that if they are feeling unwell or showing any flu-like symptoms, please remain home, and that is really important. I would also like to bring to your attention through stage 2, it has been flagged for us through Sport and Rec that sport facilities will be deemed as workplaces, and there'll be further checklists put in action then. I've just got a few chats coming through, so I'll just check. All right, I'll just check up on these questions and see if I'm able to help you out. Okay, everyone's still letting me know that we're cutting in and out a little bit, so I'm really sorry about that, and I'm not sure what's happening there, and unfortunately I do think it's on my end. So as I said, I'll continue and keep recording this and have this available pretty much straight after the webinar, so you are able to watch it back and hopefully not miss out on anything. So on the next page of our document, which I'll now share with you, so this document has been done in conjunction with Bowls Australia, and also through the AIS framework. So hopefully most of this is quite self-explanatory, and you may have been aware of it. So Bowls Tasmania recommends that all clubs have a designated volunteer or staff member, and this is really quite important, and we think it's the best way for our clubs to be able to fulfill all of the requirements that are in this document and ensure that each of the processes are being followed. Hand sanitizer must be made available at the entrance of the bowling club and beside each green in use. I just want to clarify that there was a misreporting in the Advocate today for anyone that might have seen that. You don't need to sanitize before every bowl. The article made that appear today that was the case, and that's not the case. You don't need to sanitize your hands before every bowl. Disinfectant spray must be made available beside the mat and jacks and boxes. So after each use, the club is responsible for making sure that these mats and jacks have been sanitized. Although it does say that if there are any lone bowls, they must be clean, our recommendation is that clubs don't have lone bowls available during this time. It will require further sanitisation, and we believe that you're in a better position if you don't make those lone bowls available at this time. Bowls clubs may need to implement a booking system, and this is something that we, again, really strongly encourage. It's the best way of tracking if, unfortunately, we do have a positive case in a club, then we can be really proactive and able to inform all players that were at the facility that this is the case. So a booking system is really necessary. Now, we're working with Bowls Australia at the moment to be able to produce an online booking system. It is hoped that that will be up and running by the end of next week, and we're in prototype 2 at the moment. We made a few tweaks, and I believe that that will be a really handy system for you all to use. Now, if for whatever reason an online system is not an option for you, then there are other alternatives that we can work with you on to have a booking system available. But it is really important that your club keeps a really strict register on who has been at the premises and at what times. And it's also necessary to ensure that you are keeping within the numbers, the 10 and the 20 later on. By having the booking system, you're able to police that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you might have 15 people turn up at one time. Through the booking systems, it is necessary to make sure that you leave a suitable gap in between time slots. So for example, if your first time slot was from 10 till 11, I would suggest that you probably don't have the second time slot till about 11:20. That gives enough time for people to be able to pack up and leave without crossing over in the car park, because we are trying to avoid any social gatherings, and people may use that as an opportunity to have a bit of socialisation. So we would recommend leaving plenty of time. It also leaves your volunteer or staff member plenty of time to sanitise everything before the next group arrives. And where possible, outdoor accessible toilets should be open if using an outdoor green, and at the very least some hand washing facilities. No barefoot bowls groups that will be hosted during this time. So this is for registered bowlers. And once we move on to more formal bowls activities, there's also a bit more information on that in making sure that we maintain the 1.5 social distancing. There must be rink space between. All players are to use separate mats and jacks. And that may mean that you need to have, additional mats and jacks available at those rinks. Other bowls equipment is not to be shared between players. Example, their bowls, their cloths, their measures. Quite often one player's missing a measure, so they hand it on to the next person. Again, disinfectant sprays to be made available and other hygiene opportunities. Individuals must leave the premise immediately. Even during stage 2, it is very much a case of get in, get the job done and get out. And that might seem quite abrupt and quite harsh, but they're the measures that need to be taken. Coaching should be limited to no more than a coach and 2 other people. So you're still maintaining not too many on the one rink, and maintaining the 1.5 social distancing. And once again, no barefoot bowls activities. Okay. Just had a query through, what authority does the Bowls Tasmania Return to Play document mean for clubs? Is this law as decreed by the Tasmanian government? Is it simply a set of guidelines which clubs may or may not decide to follow, or just follow in part, etc.? These are minimum requirements that must be followed. They do fall under all government regulations, so it does fall under all of the law options. The Australian Institute of Sport have also, on behalf of the government, released a framework around returning to sport, and all of these guidelines are very carefully stipulated in there that sports facilities must follow. So we're simply the messenger for bowl-specific activities on that. So as I said, these are minimum requirements that must be met by clubs. If any clubs put any further requirements on top of that, there's their choice, but they can't take any of these requirements off. These are minimum standards. And as I said, as we move into stage 2 in particular, when sport and recreation facilities are deemed workplaces, there'll be even further checklists that'll be made available at that time, and will be law to follow. So hopefully that sort of clears that question up quite well. Just some other, I suppose, tips and tricks that we'd perhaps like to mention, that they're not listed in there as mandatory, but recommendations that could be good and useful for clubs to follow. And that is around drink fountains, for example. You know, having communal drink fountains is not acceptable at this time. So if you do have drink fountains available, certainly not using reusable drink bottles and things like that, or reusing the same cup multiple times, because there could be a crossover of saliva and stuff like that. So be conscious of that if your club does have water bubblers and things available. One of the things we noted today that was part of return to play in one of the UK documents was actually also removing your own rubbish. So clubs may choose to also make that a statement within their club that, whatever you bring onto the premises, please take off with you. And there has been a few questions around board meetings as well. So this doesn't necessarily fit into getting on the green as such, but some clubs are wondering whether they can actually start having board meetings again. So yes, you can, provided you are meeting the maximum 10 people requirement. So if you have a board of 10 or less, then that's fine. You are able to gather and have your meeting. I would recommend, if that's a situation and you normally have your board meetings in a boardroom, that's probably too small a space for that many people. So just be very conscious of the room size. You may like to move your board meeting into a hall area, for example, that's a lot bigger, and you're able to set the meeting venue up to maintain 1.5 metre social distancing. So where to from here, I guess, is the thing. We would ask any clubs that are opening their greens and having bowls action happening, and understanding that in Tasmania at this time of the year, this may not affect the majority of clubs, but those clubs that are, if you could let us know that you are, it would be really helpful. It's important for us to answer to other people as well. So it would be helpful if we can let our superiors know which clubs are in action. So if you could let us know that you are opening. If you could also confirm with us that you do have a booking system in action, or if you would like the use of the electronic booking system that we're in the process of working with Bowls Australia on. Now, you may wait and want to see that system before you make a decision, and that's fine as well. So let's work together on that. Let's make it as easy and as safe as possible for your clubs and for your members. Please feel free to shoot through any more questions if you have any. Apologies again if I've cut in and out throughout this. Hopefully you've been able to pick up the majority of what I've been saying. As I said, I have recorded this, so hopefully the recordings come through okay, and you'll be able to view that if you have missed anything. I am seeing on Facebook that a lot of clubs are still obviously doing working bees and things like that at this time of the year with the renovation of their greens. If I can just remind clubs that we did send information out, and it is on the Bowls Tasmania website under the COVID help desk, information around working bees. So volunteers are still classified as essential, and some of this stuff that some of the work that's being done on greens at the moment with renovations are essential and need to be done at this time of the year. But please remember the regulations that are around that and the advice that we've given clubs, which is to try and keep that to an absolute skeleton crew if you can. So our recommendation there is probably no more than 5 volunteers. Again, keeping a really tight register on who is there, so you have a record of that should anything go wrong, and also it's a good clear register for you to be able to prove that people are there for a volunteer capacity. So please keep that in mind with more work that's going on. Lee McAdams just said he's happy to share the stuff that he's developed if anyone wants it. Lee's actually worked on quite a good spreadsheet register that he's shared with Bowls Tasmania It's a really good system that he's set up to keep a register at the club. His club felt that the online booking system probably wasn't going to work for the majority of their members, so they produced another option. And as I said, it's a very good document. So if anyone would like a copy of that, I'll have a chat with Lee, and we might look at getting that out to clubs so they can have a look at it. So I appreciate that, Lee. Thank you very much. Any other questions before we finish up? Again, sorry if it's been a bit glitchy. Hopefully this has helped clarify a few things. Most of it is in the document, so it's probably just a matter of us making sure that it was nice and clear for everybody. Now, understanding that this whole scenario with COVID-19 and the roadmap to recovery here in Tassie is still a little bit fluid. You know, things are still changing quite rapidly. We're doing everything we can to keep a finger on the pulse and keep on top of things as it's coming through, and feeding as much information out to you as our members, clubs and regions, to make sure that you're fully across everything and basically you know what we know when we know it. So we'll continue to keep on doing that and keep you as up to date as we possibly can. Hopefully this has been of value to you. I will send out the up-to-date document now with those couple of changes, and hopefully we'll get out there, we'll remain safe, and we'll start seeing people on the greens soon. But look, Tasmania's done a fantastic job. I think we've had 7 days in a row now of no cases, so we don't want to jump the gun too quickly. We do still have many regulations in place, and we would ask that everyone continues to heed that advice and abide by all of that. So if there's no other questions coming in. All right, I think we're good. So look, if there's anything that hasn't been covered, feel free to give me a call, send an email into BowlsTas, and we'll get those answers to you. And as I said, even if it's a question that I can't quite answer off the top of my head, I'll make sure we get the correct answer for you. So thanks again for your time. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe. Thank you.